Yo, yo, what up, ZapCon land? YouTube land? Internet land? Whatever land you're in today, it's Friday. We're super excited to have Simon today. I'm Scott Gerlach, CSO, co-founder at StackHawk. Hang on, Simon, they can't see you yet. Founder at StackHawk here. StackHawk is an application security testing company built for scaling out kind of your ZAP deployment. A little bit of special sauce on top of that, but if you love ZAP, you want to scale that out, come take us out, stackhawk.com. Today, we're talking about hacking on ZAP. So obviously, StackHawk loves ZAP. Heart emoji here. The heart emoji. StackHawk loves ZAP. We support ZAP. Simon works at StackHawk on ZAP full time. Today, he's showing how to fix some of the basic spider, basic crawler. And don't forget, we announced last week at ZapCon, by the way, if you didn't see the opening videos, the videos from ZapCon are in this YouTube channel. Subscribe, like our video, hit the little bell icon. Make sure you get notified when we've got new content, new live streams. We're trying to do a live stream every Friday if we can. There will not be one next Friday. I'll be somewhere else, Hawaii. We'll try to keep this content fresh, keep it going. Love to hear from the audience out there. What kinds of things do you want to talk about in StackHawk or Zapland? What things help you advance your information security, application security, career, deployment, program, whatever that might be? Today we're talking about coding in ZAP. So I'm going to bring Simon on. Hey, Simon. Oh, wait. Now they can probably hear you.
Testing. One,
yeah,
two,
they
three.
can hear you now. I can hear you.
Yay.
They can hear you. Yeah, my bad.
Good.
That was my bad. Hey, Simon. Super excited to have you on the live stream today. Tell the people what we're talking about.
Right. So today we are talking about improving the ZAP traditional spider.
Awesome. For those that don't know, what is the traditional spider?
So with vulnerability scanners, there's lots going on. And one of the key things to actually test an application effectively, you've got to explore it effectively. If you can't explore an application effectively, you don't know what to test. So there's different ways of doing that. Now, I always used to say one of the best ways the best way is to do it manually and have a person go through and drive the website. Turns out I might not have been right, as we'll find out later. But it's still, manual testing is still, the gold standard when it comes to security testing of web applications. But obviously, it's very time consuming. It's expensive if you get professionals to do it. And ZAP is all about automation, as well as manual testing. So ZAP has a whole range of ways to help you explore your application. We can import API definitions. If you've got a sane API definition, we can import that. But there are many cases where you can proxy unit tests. You can import URLs. But two of the main options we have are called spiders or crawlers, and we have the standard spider. We call it. We'll call it different things, and that is a web crawler which just goes through the pages, looks for links, and follows them. It's fast and furious and very good at what it does. However, if you've got a modern web application which is building up links from JavaScript, then those links will not appear in the HTML, and the standard traditional crawler spider typically won't find them. So for that reason, we also have the AJAX spider. And the AJAX spider works differently. It works by launching browsers, any modern browser, and by that we mean Firefox and Chrome, really, and then essentially clicking on things. So we're using Selenium and control that to drive the browser. And that's very similar to actually doing it yourself. It just takes longer than a traditional spider, but it's very good it can handle the JavaScript stuff.
Yeah. So if I was to summarize, you could think of we called it the standard spider in today's stream. If you think of the standard spider, it's like the Google crawler. It's looking for some of that static HTML. If you're into SEO or you know someone who's into SEO, And you've heard them say, do not put important stuff in single page apps. That's why, because they use the same kind of technology. They don't like crawling those single page apps, as they're called, because they're hard to render, they're hard to find content in, all that good stuff. So similar information. The AJAX spider is actually drives web browsers to be able to render that JavaScript content, then find links in that content and other things that are interesting, and use that information to go do stuff with ZAP. I will say we've been doing some testing on the AJAX spider internally at StackHawk, and ever since Ricardo put in the new network changes, the AJAX spider is working much, much better now. So that's actually super awesome. Today, I believe we're talking about the standard spider. So Simon, I'm gonna get your like screen share and all that stuff going here. We'll be off to the side, and you can walk us through what's going on.
Sure. Well, interestingly enough, this actually started because I wanted to test the AJAX spider. I mean, I've always said that managing a project like ZAP is like spinning plates. There's always loads of things going on. And one of those plates is the AJAX spider. We know it's good at what it does, but we know it's not perfect. So we're always looking to improve it. But you can only improve things if you can actually measure them. So what I finally got around to doing okay, I'm going to test the AJAX spider, see how well it does. And to do that, you need a good test site. Are we sharing my screen now?
Yeah, everybody can see what's going on your screen.
Great. So I have been aware of something called Google Security Crawl Maze for a while. So this is a comprehensive testbed for web security crawlers. It contains pages representing many ways in which one can link resources from a valid HTML document. So this looked ideal. And I thought, right, I'm going to play around with this. So here is the repo. And if we scroll down here somewhere, there is actually a live link. Here we go. And I will just open that in a new tab. And I'll have to move this to move that down because Zoom's controls have got in the way. And it's a very simple site. And so one of the first things I did was actually open the site and started navigating around. And you can see it's not pretty. It's just very simple. And this is actually ideal for testing stuff. So this is what we want. I thought this is ideal for testing the AJAX spider. So I fired up ZAP and I thought, okay, I will go and first of all, manually go through this. I won't do it here because you'll get bored. Didn't take too long, took me a few minutes. Then I ran the AJAX spider. And finally, I ran the traditional spider. And it turns out that the AJAX spider actually found more URLs than I did, and it found them quicker. I did start 10 Firefoxes, and there's only one of me. So it was quite quick, not as quick as the traditional spider. And it turns out that the traditional spider and the AJAX spider actually find different things, which is to be expected. And the combination wasn't bad. But I looked at some of the things that it wasn't quite, which we didn't find. And none of them were like, oh my God, we should be finding this all the time. They're more obscure stuff. So I'm not overly concerned, but we always want to make things better. And looking at it, most of them look like they're actually improvements to the traditional spider. So even though I was starting to look at the AJAX spider, right now we're going to hack on the standard spider. So I'm going to start up ZAP, but I want to use the setup that I had before. So if you joined us before for either of my demos, actually, I think I've done a demo with this setup before, but definitely the ZapCon one. So I've set up my ZAP development environment. You can see I've actually still got the buffer overflow scan rule in there. So I'll just close these windows. And what I have is I've just got ZAP Proxy and ZAP extensions in here, and we won't actually need ZAP extensions in this case. But what I do need to do is go back to the command line. Oh, I was just checking that. So what I have here is ZAP Proxy and ZAP extensions. Now, I haven't touched these since ZapCon I know some changes have been made, so I will cd to ZAP Proxy and its status. Okay, nothing too worrying about there. So what I want to do is git pull upstream main. And that will pull down all the changes. And you'll actually see there's been some changes to the spider. Because I started working through these, I thought, see how difficult they are, made some improvements, and I thought, well, actually, there's a lot more here that can be done. And these would be great things for new contributors to hack on.
Hey, Simon.
Hence this workshop.
Real quick,
Yep.
Can you show people get remote-v so people understand why you pulled updates from upstream, I think you said? Yeah.
Good point. So I wanted to pull things down from upstream, which is ZAP Proxy. And I'll do a git push. Don't expect, everything's up to date, no problem. So my repo will be up to date. But yeah, so I wanted to pull down the latest stuff from ZAP Proxy.
Perfect, thanks.
So I'm now going to run ZAP using the command that I've used previously. And I've got the, did I saw or not? Now, the only reason I'm doing this here is because I kind of set this directory up with the right font size so you can see things better. You don't need to use these -args unless you really want to, or you could start it from Eclipse or your IDE if you'd like.
Yo, if you're watching and you're wanting to follow along and you get lost somewhere, definitely shoot us a message in the chat. I'll try to pull the reins on Simon a little bit, and we'll get him hoed up there a little. We'll try to explain whatever you might get stuck with. Obviously, later this will be recorded, be on the YouTube channel, so you can come back and watch this in slow-mo or 2x-mo, whichever suits your fancy. But if you have a question or you're getting confused by something, shout out in the chat.
Great. So here's that, and you can see we've got a news item telling you that the ZapCon videos are now all available on YouTube. Yay! So let's go back to here. So this is what we want to crawl. Or spider. So you've got various options. I don't want to do a full automated scan on it. I just want to do the spider. So we have a separate spider tab. We can also go up to tools and start the spider there. You've got loads of options, way to do things. And we want to start at that URL, and that'll do actually. We don't need any advanced options. I'm just going to kick off the scan. And it will not take too long. And you can see the progress. Obviously, the progress kind of changes as we find more stuff. There we go. So we found, Spider found 157 nodes and 155 were added. Great. So the question is, how well did ZAP actually do? And you can kind of go through here, and actually everything is under test, but it's kind of awkward. And so what I'm going to do is I wanted to get a very quick idea of how well what we'd found. And it turns out that all of the URLs end up under test with .found on them. So I script everything. So let's create a script. And what I want to do is I want a standalone script. And so we can create a new script, and I'm making it's going to be a standalone. So with lots of different script types, and I'm not going to use any template. And I'm going to save that. So where do you get started with the script? Well, whenever I start a script, I usually rip off something, find something which is close to what I want. And what we have, if we go to the ZAP Proxy GitHub repo, we have community scripts. And so we've got loads of fun things in here. So we go into standalone. And what I'm going to start with, I'm just going to find this traverse sites tree because it's a very simple script. And guess what? It traverses the sites tree. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it in. Now we do actually have an add-on which has all of the community scripts in, but I'll just paste this one in for now. So, and if I run that, there we go. So it's just crawled, well, it's just looped through the sites tree, but it's giving us a lot of stuff we don't actually need to know. So it's time to actually change this to do something that, to make it more useful for us. So I'll just show you what it does is first we get hold of the root and should make a var there really. Spells things. And what it's doing is getting hold of, we've got this session singleton. The singletons are actually it's a model singleton. We are aiming to get rid of all of the singletons in ZAP, but that's going to be a kind of long-running project. But this is how we currently get hold of the sites tree, and then we get the root, and then we pass the root to list children, and we then loop through, or actually loop down and print things out. So that's all good, but you can see we're getting this hierarchy, which we don't actually need. And actually we could do with this node child at, I'm going to extract that because that's just too useful. So and I want to put that back in there. And here we can just do the child. Now, one thing is we don't want to print all of them out. So what we want to do, we want to say if child.get child count equals, put the brackets in. So we only want to print out the leaf nodes. So that should do it. And we don't actually want to do this indentation trick. So let's just do that and see what happens. And if we actually select that option, then every time we run a script, then it will clear the panel down here. Oh, and it's already failed. Yay. Why has it gone wrong?
You're trying to do J for get child at, and J doesn't have a value.
That's because I put it in the wrong place. Thank you.
Pair programming at its best.
Exactly. Right. There we go. Right. That's better. So we've got quite a few things, but we're getting there. So we don't just want, we don't want everything. We only want things that end in .found. So we'll go in here and child.get node name ends with .found. Should reduce some of the noise. That's getting better. But node name. Now, this is where it's kind of useful to, I know that I can put hierarchic node name in there, and that should, there we go, that gives the full thing. If you don't know the names, then this is all this stuff is coming from Java. So if you, obviously we've got it in Eclipse now, or your IDE, but we can also go back and go back to new tab. We do actually have Java docs as well. So if you don't want to get stuck into the code, then you can look at the Java docs and you can find the relevant classes and find out what methods are available on them. But I happen to know that get hierarchic node name would give me everything. So we've now actually got quite a simple way of just seeing what's been found, which is great. We could kind of do all sorts of fun, we could do extra fun things. And in fact, that's what I did. So I wanted to make something easy for people like yourselves to play around with. So I've actually written a new script for you, and that is back in the community scripts. So if you actually go into community scripts and go to standalone, then hopefully somewhere we have security crawl maze score.js. Now, this does a bit more things, because one of the things very conveniently, and this is why I love these kind of apps, in security crawl maze, it actually tells you all of the things you should find. So this is what we want. And that's one of the things when you're playing around with deliberately vulnerable applications. If you don't have this list, it just becomes painful when you're trying to do automated testing against it. Obviously, for you're trying to learn yourself, then this is not what you want. You want to actually be able to go in and find these things yourselves. But if you want to test security tools like ZAP, then these kind of lists are invaluable. So I'm going to paste this in and talk you through it.
So once again, Simon, this is the script you already made. You kind of walked us through the beginning of this, but you've already done this. And if I'm not mistaken, you're using this to score ZAP against crawl maze, right?
Exactly, yeah. So I'll have to get rid of that. So I have written this script and it got merged earlier today. And basically we've got the expected results in there. And this is taken from crawl maze. And it's a bit more complicated because what we're actually doing, it turns out that crawl maze has HTTP and HTTPS links. And you need to actually test both. And we're setting up the sites tree, and I'm printing out a header. Then instead of looping through the sites tree, what I do is I loop through the expected results and then try to find either the HTTPS or the HTTP version. And if I find it, then we'll actually check the history type. And we're using this has history type method so we can find out whether either the standard spider or the AJAX spider found it. Now, this script doesn't run those, so it's up to you to actually run them first. So if I run this script myself, you'll see that, in fact, the AJAX spider is failing every time because we haven't run the AJAX spider. But we will see that the standard spider is passing on some and failing on others. So if you decide to have a hack around with these things, then you can use this scoring script. And actually, if we go back to zaproxy.org and you go to documentation and scroll down to the end, you'll see test scans. And we have two sets of results here, plan to add to them. We've got firing range and we've got Google Security Crawl Maze. And if you click on that, then you see a bit of blurb about it, including a link to the StackHawk ZAP fund, and then a prettier version of the output of this script. And you can see we're actually scoring 61%. And these are the things we're passing and failing on for each of the spiders. And really, what we want to do, ideally, everything would be green, passing for everything. In practice, the AJAX spider is not going to be able to find certain things that the standard spider will be able to find, and vice versa. So, ideally, both will pass, but as long as one passes, we're happier. But if neither pass, then that's where we want to fix something.
Hey, Simon, you want to hit on the ZAP fund again? For those that don't know, last week at ZapCon, we announced a ZAP fund. And part of that ZAP fund is helping do stuff like this and ZapCon, but part of it is bug bounty for ZAP. So if ZAP has an issue that's outstanding and we think it's an easy issue or an issue that someone like you out there on the internet could contribute to, we put a bounty on those things. So here's the list of bountyable items, and in here is some of the crawler stuff we're talking about today. Side note, StackHawk employees are not eligible for the bounty. ZAP core team members aren't eligible for the bounty. Only you are eligible for the bounty. So, you want to make some money, hack on ZAP, this is all for you here.
Exactly. And if you look down here, we've got this issue for spidering, fixing any 5 issues in the crawl maze. And if we... Oh,
the text.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, yeah. So this is the issue. And we actually now have a tracker. And so the idea is if you actually want to fix any of these, then obviously you can just go ahead and do it. But you might well want to say, okay, I'm working on these. I don't want somebody else to work on them at the same time and then put a PR just before me when I've done all this work. So you can actually ask to be assigned an issue and say which 5 problems you're working on. And you can't grab more than one issue at once, more than one of the bounted issues. So you can't, say, give me 20 of the issues and grab all of the failing results. And we're expecting people to work on them straight away. So we expect results within a reasonable period of time, or at least feedback. But you'll see there's 2 which have been reserved already. One is the block quote site.found, CITE, and that is actually ZAP actually finds that, even though it says it fails in the results. And that's because there was a bug in crawl maze. So I submitted a fix to them and they've merged it, but obviously it hasn't been put on the main site. So the scoring claims that ZAP has not found it when in fact it did. And the other one is a long desk.found, which I've reserved for this bounty, for this workshop, not a bounty. So if we go back here and we go down, and where is long desk.found? Right, it says it passes, but that's probably because I had the fix in place. So if we now go back to actually crawl maze, and if I can find it. So that was, I can't even remember where it was now. It was in HTML. Was it body, image, long desk? Right, so the long desk attribute specifies a hyperlink to a detailed description of an image. Now that is actually something I didn't know before I started looking at this. So you learn a new thing every day.
Yeah, same here.
So, so how do we go about finding this? Well, first of all, let's see if ZAP actually did, if it's present in any of the requests that ZAP understood. So what we can do is we can use the search tab, and we put in long desk.found and search, and straight away we find it. And we find the page, we say the long desk attribute specifies a hyperlink to a detailed description of an image, and there we have an example. So ZAP found the content, it didn't recognize that that was a valid link. So yeah, this means it's ideal for the standard spider to find. So what we want to do now is we want to find the relevant bit of code in ZAP. Now, I've been playing around with this. I know where it is. But how do you generally find where stuff is in ZAP if you don't know the code base? Well, there's a way to cheat. And it's actually what I do if I'm not sure. Because, ZAP code can end up in different places. And what you can do is find somewhere in the desktop UI that refers to something related. So I'm going to go to options is always pretty good. And we'll go to the spider and make this a bit bigger. And if we scroll down, we'll see all the different options. And you can see here, parse robots.txt file. So parse HTML comments with all these kind of things are related to parsing spider stuff. It's nothing to do with images, but it's a good place to start. So we want to find out where something like robots.txt file is, or actually, I'll go for parse HTML comments. So for this, okay, I'll need a new tab. I think I can do that with just probably tab will do it, won't it? Yes. So I want to find no grep -r, so recursive grep, and what is it? Parse HTML comments. And it will be in ZAP and source mains. We're not looking at testing. And let's just see what that finds.
Simon, how can you tell if something is going to be in the plugins, ZAP extensions, or ZAP core?
If you know it is an add-on, then it'll be in ZAP extensions. Otherwise, I'd use grep. So actually, if we go, I'd do the same grep, but I'll just have to do, I would expect that would probably not find anything. I don't know how long it'll take.
Fair enough. If you're searching, the point is, if you're searching for something, a functionality in ZAP, and you don't know where, you don't know if it's an extension or an add-on or in core, you might have to search ZAP Proxy, the ZAP Proxy directory, or the ZAP-extensions directory for those things.
Yep. And if you can't find something, just ask on one of the community group, community group or Discord or Twitter or anything like that. We're here to help. Now, what you'll see is we have found this parse HTML comments and it is in messages.properties. So that is basically ZAP is internationalized. So we use these labels, which means, let's go, we haven't got to the code, we've got to the property file, but it's still, we've got partway there because we can actually go and put that label in. And actually, it's probably the options one we want. And we can search for that. And hopefully we'll then find where it is. And here we found the options spider panel. But in this particular, so we can actually start looking at there and we can start working back. But I also saw that the robots.txt file was mentioned. And that's kind of an interesting one because there's more chance of, it's actually found stuff in the session, which is interesting.
Hey, Simon, there's a question in chat. Is this your usual workflow or are you using an IDE?
Normally I use Eclipse, but for something like this, I would actually grep from the command line. So I find grep from the command line is actually quicker than using the IDE search. And actually, the GitHub interface is pretty quick as well. So put something into GitHub to search in the ZAP repo.
Cool.
And what I've found here is we have found Spider robots text parser. Now that looks interesting, particularly as it's in a Spider parser directory, and that is under org ZAP Proxy ZAP Spider parser. So that is somewhere, we're not actually looking for robots.txt, we're looking for something similar, and a parser directory actually looks pretty good. So let's go into our IDE and ZAP Proxy. I will just do because I did update it, I will do a refresh just to make sure it picks that up. And under ZAP, Java, org ZAP Proxy, Spider, and parser. Right, so here we find that we have a set of parsers, which is great. And one of them, so we've got the the robots one. But in this case, we're really just looking for the HTML one. So that is what we have found there. Now let me just go back to ZAP, because I just want to check something. Check these results. So because we're looking for right, good. Because I said earlier they'd found something and it hadn't. So we have, because I think it was something named simply, but the image long desk that we were looking for, we have not found. So that's good, because then we can actually see if we find it. So we have now, if we go back to our IDE, we have found the HTML parser.
Hey, Simon,
and yeah,
you might want to bump the font on your code screen there, just like one or two.
I am not sure I can. I had to hack around to get this to work, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay.
I had to. It's really not straightforward in Eclipse as far as, let me see. If there's preferences, I'll try. But I know there were problems with it. Is it Java? Basic, maybe in Basic. I cannot. This is something I've set up a while ago, so I do not know how to do it offhand. Okay. I'm afraid. So sorry about that. I'll try and get it bigger next time.
Hang on. I've got, keep doing it. I will adjust in the stream.
Hey. Oh, wonders of modern technology. So this is, it's not actually a huge file. Looks fairly straightforward, but I get bored quickly. So I do a search for image, and here we have process image elements. And what we'll see is we've got this process attribute element, and we're looking for the source element, which is kind of makes sense. If we go back to the search and look at the response, so we would have found something in source, and I'm sure we have, but we haven't found anything in long desk because we're not looking for it. So what we want to do is we want to actually just copy that line and paste it, and then change that from source to long desk. And because we're actually we're just appending whether we found the resources, and we can see here other resources, we're doing more than one attribute, so this should be fine. So this is pretty much like a one-line change, which is always good. So what I'm going to do is I am going to
hey Simon,
down.
If you don't know how that thing works, or what if you get in there, you're like, cool, I'm going to grab some of this bounty money. You get in there and you're lost. Can you give some people some ideas of how to look at that file and read it and kind of go, okay, I sort of understand what's happening, even if you have small knowledge of how to write Java. I usually find it fairly easy as long as you understand kind of code flow and pseudocode, that kind of stuff. But give us a little insight into kind of what's maybe happening here to help people along.
Sure. So let's have a look. I mean, basically, I kind of cheated by going straight to the bit I wanted because I was looking for a string. But in this case, we're seeing that Spider HTML parser extends Spider parser. So we've already seen we've got a whole set of different spiders. And actually, we can open that, and we can see that Spider parser is an abstract class. So it won't do anything unless you implement a class to extend it. And we will see that you can add them, remove them. Nothing particularly interesting there. But here is kind of interesting stuff: processing URLs and abstract parse resource. So this means that this is a thing that the class has to actually implement. And there's actually quite good Java docs here. So you can see parses the resource. The HTTP message containing the request and response is given. Also, if possible, a Jericho source with a response body is provided. So that is actually the DOM. So we're using a library called Jericho, an open source library, of course, and that allows us to parse the DOM. So you might actually have access to the parsed DOM as well as the raw message. And somewhere in here, we should have an implementation of parse resource. And it's actually that one here. So this is the implementation that we need. And we'll actually parse if it's not provided, because what we want to do is we want to grab specific elements. And here we're actually parsing the source, which is, and this is the bit where I actually did the changes. So what we're doing is we're going through a set of HTML elements. We're going through the A1, through the area elements, frame elements. So it's all, kind of quite logical here. It's all commented. So I think this one's relatively straightforward. The process attribute element is a little bit, a bit more detail, but again, it gives you information. So not all of the ZAP code has good comments, but we try.
Awesome.
Does that help?
Simon? Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so we are gonna shut ZAP down, and I don't care about those scripts, but I did save the other one. And so now I've made that change and I have saved it. So I can then start ZAP again from the command line. Because we're making a change to the core, we don't need to redeploy any of the add-ons. So I should just be, I should go to the right window and just restart that, and it should restart fine. And
I know what the reason is, but can you tell people why you're starting ZAP in this webinar from the command line versus from the IDE?
Yep. In this case, it is just because I have set the font up, and it just makes it easier. And also, yeah, I mean, basically, I've set the font up. I could have done it via the IDE as well, but when we did this test, the last live stream, I did it in the from the command line. So it's just, it doesn't really matter. You can do it either way.
Fair enough. So for those that didn't see, Simon did a session, which is also on this YouTube channel, about contributing to ZAP during ZapCon. He set up a different working environment so as to not overwrite his regular working environment. And he wanted to pass that font argument. You could also do that in, you could also do that in, Eclipse.
Options.
Yeah, in options in Eclipse. But this is just how he was working in the last ZapCon, so he just brought it forward.
Yep. And we go to display. I think we'll see, scroll down. Yep, that is where I have set it to 18. And usually you don't need to do this, but it's just useful to make the text bigger for the video. So we want to do the scan again. I'm just going to use a standard spider and kick it off.
I have another question in chat.
Yeah.
Luca asked, how do we submit which one of the failing URLs we want to pick? I assume would be easier to focus on a single tag failing to fix, then to fix all of them on the same class or code block.
Yeah. So if we go to, let's go back to ZAP. So these are, you can see, I mean, my recommendation is don't try and fix the AJAX ones. They will be much harder. So I think the standard spider ones are the ones to look at. And you can see here, there's a whole load of them. So there should be plenty to get stuck into. And so, yeah, pick whichever ones appeal to you. And I said, search, if you do the spider and say, well, pick codebase found, copy that, go back into ZAP, go to search and search there. If ZAP search doesn't find it, then that's a problem because we'd probably need to find it via the AJAX spider. So do a search for whatever.found. If you can find it, then this is something that's ideal for the standard ZAP spider. And actually, coincidentally, you will see here that we found it in blockquote.site as well. So that was the bug in Crawl Maze, which I fixed, but they haven't pushed out to the live site yet. But yeah, if you find, so basically search within ZAP once you've spidered, just using the standard spider. If you find it, you can go, okay, obviously we're not coping with the code base attribute for applet. That's a good one to fix. So
I think Luca was asking, how do they get their name attached to the part of the tracker? And I think it's in the tracker, but I want to make clear it's a bounty. In old West times, you don't go, there's a bounty on this guy, I want to assign him to me. It's first come, first serve. You can, and try to be nice, right? We're all community. We're all playing nice together. If someone goes, hey, I would like to tackle this issue, pick another issue. Don't try to usurping people's bounties, but generally you can reach out on the tracker, make a comment in here and go, hey, I would like to tackle this particular one.
Yep. So basically, this is the tracker, and that is, so we have a look. We've only got one issue at the moment, and no one's commented on it. So the first person to comment on this issue and say which URLs you would like in the similar way I've done here. You can comment on that one, or you can comment on the tracker. Either way, doesn't matter. But give the 5 URLs you're planning on addressing in a comment, and the first one who comments will get assigned those. The very first one will get assigned this issue. Then we'll create new issues for the other ones as for anyone else. But it's the first person to grab anything which isn't on here or hasn't been grabbed by someone else before you.
Cool. Back to ZAP.
Back to ZAP. So we have done the spider, and we're going to go to scripts and standalone.
Just to reset real quick, Simon. We ran your simple score crawl maze JavaScript, found out we weren't finding a specific image attribute.
Yep.
Went and fixed that in ZAP.
Mm-hmm.
Committed that change, restarted ZAP, and that's where we are now.
Yep. And I'm going to run this script, and I am now hoping find image long desk pass. So we have now found it.
Did you have to run a passive scan before that?
No. So the passive scan, you don't actually run a passive scan. It just happens.
Yeah.
And in fact, you wouldn't have had to use the passive scanner at all. But you do have to, we have to have added stuff into the sites tree, but that happens very quickly.
So I think we might have skipped that part. What was the setup? Because this script pulls things out of ZAP history. So it has to have gone and looked at the page first, right?
Yep. So I ran the spider.
Yeah, there you go. So the next step, we fix the code in ZAP, restart ZAP, run the spider.
Yep.
Then run the script.
Exactly.
Cool.
And it's passed, but we haven't finished yet because we require unit tests wherever possible. And that means we've got to go back into Eclipse. And basically, so we've got the source main directory, and we have a source test directory as well. So if we expand that and go down to the spider parser, and we should find spider HTML parser unit test. So good, it actually has unit tests. That's if you find something that hasn't got unit tests, it's more of a pain. So you've got to write more. But there's quite a few here. So again, cheat, find IMG. should find URLs in image elements. Great. So it has unit tests, and they are testing for image elements. This should make it easier. And what we're doing is we're creating a message with a file name. So that means, and you can't see much in here, you can see what we're testing for, but I think it's fairly clear that that is a file. And the question is, where is that file? And I know where it is, but if you don't, copy that, go back into the command line and find .-name. If you're not familiar with Unix, the Unix command line, it's great, or the command line for whichever operating system you use. Unix and Linux has got some amazing capabilities. And what we can see, it found this very quickly. Ignore anything under bin because Eclipse copies stuff there. What we want is ZAP source test resources, org, ZAP Proxy, ZAP Spider, parser, HTML. Blah. So that is source test resources, ZAP, Spider parser, HTML, and image elements spider HTML parser.
I will say this particular test is a little bit different than most of the other tests. Like if you're working on a active scan rule or passive scan rule, most of that test information is contained in the test itself. Mm-hmm. This one is much different because the resources you need to like load up the spider are larger and they don't fit nicely into a test. So that's why they're kind of broken out into these HTML documents that are in a different place. So if you're working on this and you get stuck, come back, go slow, figure out which one we're looking at in this test suite.
Exactly. And you'll notice it's pretty straightforward HTML. It's not quite as straightforward as the crawl maze ones, which are even simpler. But, you know, we're trying to do a very similar thing here. We're trying to check that ZAP is finding stuff. We're not trying to be clever. So what we want to do is we want to add a new example. In fact, I'm going to add a couple of examples because what you'll see is we've got both absolute and relative links here. So I'm going to put in 2 new examples. And in this case, we don't want source. We want long desk. And now, strictly speaking, this is invalid because source is required. But I think alt is required as well, and we don't include that. These are just tests for us. So I'm going to do long desk equals slash div. And now with the absolute ones, it doesn't matter, but I will rip off something we've already got here. So
I think you meant borrow, not rip off. Borrow.
Yeah, right. Slash full/long desk. So what I've now done is I have put in 2 new examples. And if I hadn't made that change, nothing would happen in the unit test. But I've made that change. So I'm going to now right click and I am going to run as a JUnit test. And first thing is it fails because we expected 7 elements. And if you kind of double click on the relevant place, it'll take you to the right line. And in fact, it found 9. That kind of makes sense. So we'll replace that with 9 and we'll run it again. And it'll fail because it didn't match long desk, which is not surprising because we've added that. So I can put that in. If I can, that's a pay. Yes, and sometimes these get tricky. So another hack I do is I want to. Oh, God, I hate it when it does that. You can sometimes never sure exactly what it is expecting.
You miss an L on your listener.
Yeah, I can see something. Isner. Not
Isner.
ideal. So that's better. So if I run that again, then in console, it will actually show me what it's expecting. So I'm just going to paste that in. And that will, it's not going to like that. It's the wrong format, but we can do some little hacking around. And we want to replace that with it's done. And don't want that there. And all of this will be, get rid of all of that. Doesn't look very pretty, but I honestly don't care about that at the moment. I just want it to get to work. So JUnit and what's it doing now? Oh, it's doing stuff down there. Sorry.
Hey, Simon, if you wanted to practice your test-driven development and you wanted to participate in this bug bounty thing and work on one of these things, you could actually wire this up the other way, right? You could go write the content,
exactly.
Fix the test, then go fix ZAP and make the test pass.
Exactly. So that now works. It doesn't look very pretty, but what we can do is we can go in and have I got, oh no, won't have it. So I will need to go into Gradle tasks, ZAP Proxy, verification. No, it's not. Probably under MISC. No. Where is now? Where's Spotless Apply? Was under.
Right there. It's right there at the bottom there.
Oh,
verification, Spotless Apply.
Yay. I have hotkeys set up in my usual environment. Or yes, menu items for that.
What is Spotless Apply?
So Spotless Apply is making it pretty. It's doing the formatting. So if you don't do a Spotless Apply, then it will not pass the build when you submit it. And there we go. It then kind of prettifies it. And if we run that again, it should still, it'll just still work. Yeah, it all works fine. So that is, I have now done that check and I've put in the unit tests. So what's left is to do a PR. And what I'll do is go up to here and I am going to team and switch to a new branch. I like to keep things, it's always good to have new branches. And spider / image long desk. And then we can right click team commit. Took a little while. Probably at too high a level. I've done it at the ZAP level quicker. There we go. Right. So we have a look. So obviously it's found all these other things which we're not interested in. And what you can do is you can double check that, yep, these are the things we're expecting. Oh, except I've got the system done out in there. Shouldn't have done that. That would get rejected.
Yep.
So this is why it is good to double check. So I often put a to do. I often do something like that when I put these things in, and then it would actually get highlighted, but I forgot. So I will need to get rid of that, and then team commit, and I didn't actually commit, so, but I don't just want to do that. So have a look at the unit test, and we've no longer get the horrible system out. And we've got the file changes in as well. Now, so I can put in here spider find image long. And what we also need to do is we need to put this signed off line. So Eclipse will do that. You can actually configure it to do it by default. If you don't do that, then you will find you'll fail one of the checks we do as part of the build.
You can also do that in the get command line with -- sign off.
Good recommendation. So we've done that, and then we can go to ZAP Proxy, and we can go push. And I always do that even though I know it'll fail, because it then gives me the command I need to use. So then we've got this one. And
now you push this to a different remote than you pulled from.
Yeah, because I am not allowed to push to ZAP Proxy. No one is. So that would fail. So I've got my own copy of the my own clone of ZAP Proxy.
So you just in GitHub you just forked the ZAP Proxy and the ZAP extensions repos into your own personal repo.
That's right. And here we can see the pull request, and we can check we just got one line in there. Change that cert. We've got those things in. That's looking kind of sane. Let's put a little note in there as well. And I will create, I'll put a related to in our copy this. It's just that I need. You don't have to do these things, but it just kind of makes it. It's just kind of good to call Mace Tracker. And I will create a pull request. And we'll see that 2 reviews are required. So, and I can't do one of those reviews. So everything has to be reviewed by at least 2 of the ZAP core team. And you can't review your own stuff. And you see what we're now building against Java 8, 11, and 17. The DCO check has passed. So that means that I put that signed by thing in. If I hadn't, that would fail. WIP, if you put WIP in your title, that's saying it's work in progress, and it will not, you can't merge it either. So if I suddenly realized there was something wrong, something I wanted to change, I could put WIP in my title, and then I know that no one would merge it until I've made the changes I wanted. And Ricardo's added an enhancement label. He's very good at those kind of things, and he's put it on the 2.12.0 milestone. You probably won't be able to do these things. I probably should have done it, but and that is the main thing I was going to show. Is there anything? We've got any other questions in the chat?
I haven't seen any other questions in the chat. We're coming to the end, so if you're following along and you maybe got lost or maybe you don't understand something, remember this is recorded. It'll stay here on YouTube, right here. But if you have any questions and you want us to try to knock them out quick, we can do that now. Hit us up in the chat. If you don't have any questions, give us a thumbs up in the chat. Like, yeah, that's rock and roll. I know exactly what to do. I've got a weekend project. I'm going to make a little money. Try to make a little money.
So have we got much time left?
I think we're towards the end of our time.
Cool.
I think we spent our hour. We're about hour and 5 in. So we've got just a little bit of time here. Remember, Luca asked, for the sign-off part, it's just enough to put my name and email right. Are there any other practices we should be aware of? It's not just enough to put your name and email. There's actually a sign-off function in Git. So in Eclipse and IntelliJ, you can do that as part of the interface. In the Git command line, it's -- sign-off. So it's like an official Git sign-off. So you got to do the official part, not just put your name and all that stuff in there. It's part of the Git workflow.
If for some reason you can't do it, we can kind of override it, but you need to tell us that, yes, this is what you want us to do. So it's a bit more messing around. And we can see Rick King Thorin has approved these changes. Only one, so we've only got one approval, so that's not going to be merged in yet. And what will happen is, so we actually have, so if I go back to here, now I haven't actually put the code in to automate this, but I will do. So, but if we have a look at the firing range results, those are automated. So what I'll do is I'll just go and I think it's in, no, it's in ZAP management. That's painted. So I probably haven't got any links to that because I don't think it is in here. It's not one of these workflows. No, it's not. It's a different repo. So we no, let's go to, actually, is it ZapBot or is this? This isn't my usual browser, because otherwise it would just come up all the time. Good. Right, so ZapBot actually has its own repo, and it's got some management scripts, and in the workflows we should see that so ZAP versus firing range. So we actually run ZAP against firing range 2 a.m. every Sunday, and it does the pull request automatically. And so that is what I need to do something similar for Crawl Maze so that we get those things updated. I meant to do it before now, but just haven't had time. Everything's nearly there. So there will be, and if we go to the actions, then we should see ZAP versus firing range, and you'll be able to see when it was last run. So last run 6 days ago. But again, we could kick this off whenever we wanted.
Cool. Good stuff, Simon. I'm gonna take your desktop off. It's just gonna be the pair of us on the screen here. Simon, thank you for walking people through this. Remember, StackHawk Zap Fund is what we're talking about here. So stackhawk.com/zap-fund is where you can find all these bounty issues. They have links to the issues in Simon shared, so hold on. Watch out. Links to the issues in the GitHub issues for ZA Proxy. If you want to contribute, practice your Java skills, try your hand at contributing to Zap. This is a great way to get started. All input and tries are welcome here. You're probably going to get really good feedback from the core team. All the resources about how to develop on ZA Proxy, all the things you have to do, how to set up your development environment, how to validate your tests, run spotless apply, run Jacoco, all the good stuff that you got to do when you're contributing to Zap is all listed under zaproxy.org/documentation/developers. And then here, you were just looking at, there you go, StackHawk bounty labels. So if you want to see what else is bountied, these should match. Hopefully they match. Hopefully Simon and I stay in lockstep on this whole thing. But you can actually just go to GitHub/ZA Proxy, look at the issues and pick the StackHawk Bounty label, see what we've got in there, and then contribute. Like, try your hand. If you get stuck, the user group, or the developer group on Google Groups, people can help there. We've got the ZAP Discord channel, ZAP Slack channel. I think it's an OWASP, in the OWASP org. Lots of ways to reach out. If you get stuck and you're trying on the YouTube channel here, hey, put a comment down below. We'll try to answer comments there too. So lots of ways to get in touch with, maybe too many ways. Maybe there's too many ways to get in touch with it. Lots of ways to get in touch with the ZAP core team and people who can help. Don't be afraid. It's actually easy. I'm not a developer. I can write some code, right? I'm not a developer. I've contributed a bunch of stuff to ZA Proxy. So can you. So come on, try it out. Pick a thing. Try to knock some of these crawler issues out and enjoy. Have fun. Come with us. Simon,
Exactly.
you got any closing thoughts?
Yeah, one thing to say is the reason I set ZAP up was because I was looking for a community project that I wanted to join and want to be part of. It didn't exist, so that's why I created it. And we have a mission statement, and the first thing is to be a welcoming, community-oriented project that anyone can get involved in. This is the way you can learn about web security. So if that's what you want to do, come on board.
Awesome. Simon, thank you for taking some time in your evening. I know it's evening time, and it's probably beer o'clock right about where you are.
Nearly beer o'clock, nearly.
Yeah, nearly beer o'clock. So thank you for taking time to set this up and walk everybody through it. Remember, we're going to be recording. This will be recorded. It'll be saved. You can watch it again. If you want to know when we're going to do the next live stream, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button, give this video a thumbs up so we know you're liking the content. You guys have a great weekend. Simon, have a great weekend.
You too, Scott.
And we'll see you
Thank
next
you very
time.
much. See you, folks.